Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome to another installment of the Living Oracle, Akashic Guidance for Ascending Souls. This is an energy report style podcast, but I call it the Living Oracle because the guidance that comes through is truly timeless. And the nature of this new dimension that we have shifted into is timeless. At any rate, it is truly existing in the quantum. So what that means is, even though I'm reporting on the energy from the moment that I am recording it, which in this case is Wednesday, March 26th, 2025, you could listen to this 3 years later and it would still be totally relevant to you in your situation. Even if the astrology is different, the guidance that comes through will be exactly what you need to hear in that moment for what you're going through. So I hope that you use this podcast as the full resource that it truly is. Okay, so hey, I'm Amy Belair. I'm the host. I don't have an official intro that I've recorded yet, so you probably know that I'm Amy Belair, but whatever. It's out in podcast land now. Anybody can find it. Maybe you don't. Hi, I'm Amy Belair. I'm also the host of the Third Eye Awakening podcast. That's my main podcast. If you like conversations about spiritual and psychic awakening and all kinds of crazy shit, you will love that podcast. So go check it out. But on this show, we are talking about the current energies. And oh my God, my friends, this is like, I don't even know how to put it into words. It's absolutely transcendent. It is absolutely sublime. It is so intense. It is so uncomfortable and it is so beautiful. And as I'm sure you can tell, it is requiring pretty much all of my reflexes and bandwidth to navigate being here in this new dimensional timeline. So in case you didn't listen to the last energy report, I shared that as of the morning of the total lunar eclipse in Virgo, which was March 14th, I feel that we are in a new timeline. And not just a new timeline, but the fifth dimensional timeline. Reality feels so different. It continues to feel so different, even almost 2 weeks later. It's just like, this isn't like anything we've ever experienced before. So, oh my God, there's so many things I want to say. Oh. I'm going to start by saying that in the past, we have been absolutely shifting timelines, absolutely, and doing very important work in the process of shifting timelines. But the distinction here, because there is a distinction, and it is really important that I emphasize that this is a totally different ballgame. So the distinction between everything we were doing before and what is happening right now is that previously we were working through the existing fourth dimensional timelines. So every time we were timeline shifting and, leaping to a higher timeline or quantum leaping to a different timeline, we absolutely were, but we were all doing it within the same set of fourth dimensional probabilities. So every time you timeline shifted, you were shifting to a higher octave version of that ultimate timeline, like master timeline. We could put it that way. It's like we were still within one master timeline. It was a fourth dimensional master timeline. There's so many things I could say about that master timeline. But so we were always shifting. We were always doing the work to do those timeline shifts and those quantum leaps within that one master timeline. We have crossed through, I'll just call it a stargate because it's so much more than a portal. It is a stargate into a new master timeline. And this is a fifth dimensional master timeline. And it's all new. It's totally fresh. A different set of rules, very similar, but a different set of rules. And Whereas before we were navigating what was already sort of pre-created and pre-set, it's almost like before we were moving through a choose your own adventure book, and we were moving through the different probabilities and possibilities and choice points and shifting into higher and higher octaves or nicer and nicer versions of the story within the same choose your own adventure book. And we have moved into we're not even in a choose your own adventure book. We are now in some kind of like quantum, crystalline quantum cloud. I like trying to find analogies that don't muddy the waters. It's just, anyway, the point is it's fascinating. So I have to start there and really emphasize that we are not in Kansas anymore. This is a different situation, and it is very exciting and it is very intense. I also need to comment on the astrology of what's happening right now, but there's so much happening that I'm just going to leave that to those who already tend to do their energy reports through the lens of astrology, because there's so many amazing astrologers out there. Some of my preferred favorite astrologers right now to watch that I really, really enjoy watching is, I still like Astrology with Heather on YouTube. I just like the way that she lays things out. It's easy for me to follow and easy for me to understand and draw the parallels and the connections that she's making. If you love some spice, which I do, I love Cam White. He's so funny. He's like a 27-year-old boomer. He's so funny. But I also just think he has a really astute finger on the pulse of what is going on. And he also just shares in a really raw, unscripted, authentic, and very brilliant way. So check him out. And then I also really like Tawny Michelle. All three of these people are on YouTube. I know Cam is also on Instagram, so you can check him out there. Tawny Michelle and Astrology with Heather, I don't know. But those are I like to watch their astrology reports and just, I really resonate with the way that they bring the information through. And so if you want a play-by-play breakdown of the astrology that's happening right now, it is so fascinating. And those are 3 channels that I like and recommend, but there are so many brilliant astrologers out there. So I'm just going to sort of summarize it quickly to say that we are going through so much astrologically. It feels like being the ball in a pinball machine and you're being played by the pinball wizard. It is so fast. It's like ping pong, boing, 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 boing. It's just all over the place. There are so many revelations and so many ahas, and then we sink back into unconsciousness, and then a mood takes over, and oh my God, it's just so much. If you are feeling destabilized, please know that it is not a function of your insufficiency or ineptitude on any level. It's the astrology. It's crazy. But this week we have some big things happening. We had a Mercury cazimi on Monday, and I don't know about all of you. So Mercury is retrograde in Aries, and it was the cazimi. The cazimi is it's like a highlight point. It's like a burst where Mercury and the sun come together, or, any planet can have a cazimi, but in this case it was Mercury. Mercury and the sun come together conjunct, and it's like a big emphasis on the energy of the Mercury retrograde, almost like a staccato note or an exclamation point or something, like kabam, this is an energy. And so, it's a big activation moment, whatever it means for everybody, blah, blah, blah. Again, refer to those astrologers I recommended, because they do such a beautiful job at breaking it down and taking you through the different rising signs to see how it applies to your life. But anyway, big energy on Monday, the 24th, big, big, big emphasis. So if you had any kind of clarity, or maybe you said something that you wish you wouldn't have said, but also possibly needed to be said, the flavor of it with Mercury being in Aries is there's a lot of spice. there's a lot of I feel very spicy in my communications right now. Way spicier than usual. I can tell Mercury is retrograde in Aries. So it's probably about just like a bold, unfiltered truth or realization or thought or like just penny drop moment, like total clarity, that has maybe some spice and some anger behind it. But that happened on Monday. And then I guess I'm just going to skip everything else in the middle of the week, but please know there's a lot. And there are a lot of lunar events happening on Friday, the 28th. So if you feel really crazy on Friday, that's probably why. But I'm just going to skip over to the partial lunar eclipse in Aries on the 29th. I feel like this is a big deal. Cam White doesn't think it's a big deal. I do think it's a big deal, just insofar as it's just all of the energy that's building up around Pisces and Aries. It's so like none of it can be discounted. It's all so emphasized. And basically what that means is Pisces, we're in the late degrees of Pisces with so many things, especially really critical big things like Neptune, which I'll talk about momentarily, and Saturn. And a lot of the retrograding planets are retrograding between Aries and Pisces right now. So Mercury is going to shift back into Pisces and Venus is going to shift back into Pisces. And the sun just left Pisces and just entered Aries last week. And, Neptune's in the late degrees of Pisces, just about to roll over into Aries. Saturn is in the late degrees of Pisces, going to shift a little bit later this spring into Aries. It's just so much. Chiron is in Aries. It's so much. It's so important. And so I feel like even if this eclipse itself isn't as big of a deal as the total lunar eclipse we had in Virgo on the 14th, it still feels like a really big deal to me just because of the concentration of energies around these themes of ending and beginning. So Pisces is the ending, especially those late degrees, and Aries is the beginning, especially those early degrees. And so we're literally like, I'm not surprised that the shift into the fifth dimensional timeline actually happened at this time. But I'm surprised because I've literally not heard anybody else talk about it. And I really have been listening to a lot of people's energy reports since that shift just to find out if anybody else is feeling it. And nobody was predicting it. And I don't know if everybody feels it or perceives it that way, but I know a lot of people in my world do, including people who don't listen to my energy reports, who are just, we're just sort of comparing notes, and definitely people are feeling the shift. I know this about myself. I am an oracle. I'm a channel and an oracle. Those are my primary roles, especially moving forward. And to me, what it means to be an oracle is that I'm highly, highly, highly sensitized to time, the way that time flows, fourth dimensional time, the way that time flows through the third dimension, the way that it flows in a quantum manner through the fifth dimension. I'm like super attuned to all of the myriad timelines and the ways that they intersect, and like how timeline shifting occurs and how timeline architecture occurs. Like all of that makes so much sense to me. And so it also makes sense to me that I would understand this shift that we're having as a timeline shift and a dimensional shift, because it's sort of like, I don't know, my area of, I could say it's like a zone of genius in a sense. Like it's an area that I really feel and understand on a deep intuitive level. But anyways, this is kind of a pointless ramble. I'm sorry. A pointless tangent to just really say that I don't think anybody saw this timeline shift coming over the eclipse, but now that I'm talking about all this energy between Pisces and Aries, I'm like, of course, when the fuck else would it happen? Like, it's literally, we're going from the end of a big zodiac cycle into the beginning of a new zodiac cycle, and like on big levels, on big scales. So of course we're shifting into a different reality. Anyway, I thought about restarting this, but I'm 15 minutes in. I'm going to keep going. Okay. Eclipse, I feel like it's a big deal. Go go listen to one of those astrologers or any astrologer to find out like what house it's affecting you, what area of life it's affecting you, and whatever. But just know that there's something that is ending and beginning with this new eclipse. And it might not feel absolutely like, what I'm anticipating is that it will be this flash in the pan moment of clarity where you're just like, oh, I get it. And it feels so good. And you like momentarily know, it's like you can see the whole map for a second. And that feeling of seeing the whole map feels so good. And then the map disappears and you're like, oh God. And you kind of feel like lost without it. You just remember that you had that clarity, but you don't seem to have that clarity anymore. But you do have that clarity and it's going to unfold. And it's almost like if you could see the whole map the whole time, life would be boring. Okay. You don't actually want to see the map. All you want are those occasional glimpses where you fully see it. And then you actually want the challenge of remembering the map and allowing your soul and your heart and your intuition to guide you. And your body's pretty smart. I would say usually it's our mind. Our mind is I don't want to say our mind isn't smart, because of course our mind is smart, but it's like our mind is the part of us that overthinks and overcomplicates the situation. Our mind is the part that is really, really scared. So, you know, as we move forward, it's like you've seen the map. I think it's going to be revealed to us at the time of the eclipse or very, very near around like Friday or Saturday or Sunday. But we're going to have that moment where we have the revelation, we see the map, and then the map recedes. It's kind of like, you know, if like you were struck by a bolt of lightning and for a moment the darkness was completely lit up and you could see everything, and then just as quickly the lightning is gone. But you do have sort of like the imprint on your eyes as they take a moment to adjust back to the darkness. It's like you still have that like photo imprint, and that eventually fades and it feels like it's all gone, but actually it's inside of you. It's been revealed to you. It's going to be revealed and then it's going to recede, and it's okay because it was revealed. It is in there and you can trust that. And that's your job. That's the only thing that we need to do moving forward, especially now that we're in this new 5th dimensional timeline. Like, my friends, this reality does not operate by the same rules as the previous one. If we try to hold ourselves to the same rules, the same strategies, the same way of doing things as like, you know, we're factors in the previous timeline, we're not going to enjoy the results, because it's a different reality. It's a different environment. It truly is. It is like we went from a book to a quantum crystalline cloud. Like there are no pages to turn. You just navigate reality differently. You navigate time differently. So this map, this eureka moment of clarity, of ending and beginning is impressed upon your psyche, and then it recedes. And then you just need to trust though that it's actually in there, even if your conscious mind doesn't know what it is. And you just follow your heart and follow your soul and follow your intuition and tune in with your body and see what your body is telling you and allow yourself to be guided. And what will happen is you will fulfill the map. Because that's what this timeline is about. It's about the fulfillment of the map that we carry inside of us. So that's why I think the eclipse is going to be a big deal. The eclipse on Saturday. I think it's going to give us that flash moment of the whole picture, and then it will disappear, but it's still in there somewhere. It's just in our subconscious, which is the best place for it to be anyways. And then the very next day, on Sunday, March 30th, Neptune is officially shifting from Pisces to Aries. And this is such a huge deal. There's no way to underemphasize or overemphasize this. This is such a massively huge deal. Neptune changes signs every 14 to 15 years. And it's one of those generational planets. So it affects us generationally. Like you can see the patterns of the way that it affects us, the way that it influences us in a greater generation. But what I perceive Neptune shifting into Aries to mean is that hopefully you've all spent time dreaming up your highest timeline, even if it was only daydreaming, even if you didn't feel ready to take action, or you were holding yourself back from taking action. Hopefully you've been letting yourself dream, because Pisces is the dream. Neptune is the dreamer and Pisces is the dream. And so that was sort of like the purpose of that transit, was for all of us to prepare for this shift into the fifth dimensional timeline by dreaming up what we would want it to be, and to learn how to navigate the dream and learn how to navigate the nightmare and then the weird like middle sections of the dream, and learn how to do all that timeline shifting that I was talking about within that dream up to the highest expressions of that dream, so that we could leap and land in this reality, which is much, it just has a different texture. It's a different zone. It's a different strata of consciousness. And now that we're here in this new timeline, in the fifth dimensional timeline, it's like fresh. It's like a fresh canvas, a fresh piece of paper. Nothing has been built yet. It has how could I put it? Like the parameters are set, the environment exists. You could say it's been terraformed, but it's not a physical realm. Or if this were a video game, which I'm not saying that it is, but just for the purposes of accessing an analogy that is hopefully helpful, it would be like a game that's never been played before, but the game environment has been constructed. So the game has to be built and played, but the game environment already exists. It's ready. It's waiting. That's what this new timeline is like. And Neptune shifting into Aries is like us actually starting the building process of something that's brand new. It's us taking action and taking pioneering action. And I think it's going to mean for a lot of people that you're finally going to get out of that damn holding pattern of wanting to take action on the dream, but not being able to. I think Pisces shifting into Aries is really going to light a fire for people. And a lot of you I know have been at it's like you feel like you're at the start, like the starting line, and you're just revving your engine, you're just ready to go, and you're waiting for that flag to drop. I believe that Neptune shifting out of Pisces into Aries on Saturday the 30th is going to be that flag dropping. And, some people will be ready to just shoot right out of the gate, and other people will still need to like start their car and start up slow. Because again, this is a 14-year, 15-year transit. But the point is like the flag is being dropped here for a lot of people all at the same time. And really the flag is being dropped for all of us to create this new reality together. And then also later in the spring, Saturn is going to shift out of Pisces into into Aries following Neptune. So both Neptune and Saturn are going to be in Aries. And those are both slower moving planets. And I think that Saturn is going to be where we really start to build the structure, where we really are like, okay, let's like, we start to take messy action on Saturday when Neptune moves into Aries. And then later in the spring, when Saturn moves into Aries, we start to take a little bit more measured, structured action. But it all amounts to us building and creating this beautiful new timeline together. That's all I'm going to say about the astrology, because believe it or not, I have other things to say too. Oh my gosh, 24 minutes in. How am I going to fit all this in? Okay. I want to describe the new timeline a little bit, and then I'll shift into the cards that I pulled. So the new timeline is most easily accessed by the way it feels. It's less accessible through ideas because it hasn't fully been formed yet, but there is a baseline frequency, and we are tuning into that frequency and allowing ourselves to learn how to resonate with it and start to decode it into a materialized, physical, sensual experience for ourselves, a materialized version of reality. So all I can really describe with accuracy is the raw materials of the frequency and the way it feels. And the frequency of the new timeline is very clean. And in its structure, it is very crystalline. It reminds me of the work by Dr. Masaru Emoto, who did the experiments with water crystals. And, certain water crystals that had a word attached to them or associated with them that represented hatred or like anything mean-spirited, they crystallized in a way that was misshapen and asymmetrical and like you could call ugly. And then the water molecules that had a beautiful sentiment attached to them, like I am grateful or I love you or a prayer or something, they crystallized in a way that is beautiful and symmetrical and sort of looks like snowflakes. And that snowflake pattern is what I feel in this fifth dimensional timeline. That is sort of the underlying frequency of it. And it's so beautiful and it's so pure and it hasn't taken any kind of shape yet. We are the ones who are shaping it. But what it feels like is, it feels like ease. It feels like ease, and it feels very chill, and it feels soft, like it's this knowing that everything's going to be okay, even if your mind has no idea how it's going to be okay. It's just this feeling of softness, like in this frequency, there's no struggle and there's no pressure. There's just that underlying sense of ease and chill. When I allow myself to attune to this frequency, my nervous system very quickly unwinds, and I realize how wound up I am, or I have been. And the interesting thing about this frequency is that, as I said, there are different rules to how it works. There's different laws apply here, or maybe you could say that the universal laws they work differently here. That's maybe a good way of putting it. And it's really fun. This timeline is really fun. It's really fun because energy is so much faster or it's so much easier to mold, and to mold it very quickly and feel the results very quickly. So once we start creating in earnest, it's going to be built very, very quickly. And it's kind of fun to play with this energy. Imagine right now while you're listening to me, just imagine that you are in this energy, you're in this frequency, and it's surrounding you. And it's like a mist, like you're in a crystalline cloud that feels limitless and pure and clear. And imagine like reaching your hands out and swishing them around you and playing in this crystalline cloud, in this energy, and just what it feels like to play with it and what it does. And now let yourself pick it up in your hands, like you're cupping it in your hands. And look at it and just know that these are the stem cells of this fifth dimensional timeline. These beautiful little quanta of energy can be turned into anything. And you are able to do that. And it seems like magic, and it will happen so quickly that it will seem like magic, but it's not magic. It's how we work. It's what you've always been capable of. But here in this dimensional timeline, it's much faster. And I perceive, and maybe this is my own limitation, but I perceive that there will still be a little bit of a delay, because we kind of enjoy a little bit the waiting and the wondering how it's going to show up. But it's not the same as in the old timeline where sometimes it could be a very long delay. That's what this dimension feels like. Now, what it feels like to be a human navigating this in the early days, well, this goes into the cards that I pulled. So I used different decks this week because I can't, the last card pull that I did for the last energy report is still on my desk. Like I can't put it away. If that message still feels alive and like I can't forget it, it still has to stay on my desk. So I used different card decks. I used a tarot called the Antique Tarot, and I used Rebecca Campbell's Rose Oracle for the oracle cards. So from the tarot, I pulled a card, just one card, and it is the Two of Swords. And the Two of Swords is about like a split, a dichotomy. It can often like let you know that you need to make a decision, but it's also somehow about bringing into reconciliation to seemingly opposing perspectives or thoughts, or, it's like taking things that seem like two and bringing them back into one, or bringing them to a state where they can coexist together and occupy the same space and the same state at the same time. And then the two oracle cards that I pulled are Release the Petals, Transformation, Death and Rebirth, Shedding, All Change, and Temple of the Rose, Ancient Power, Expression, Activation, Scarlet Codes. So this is what it feels like to be a human, and this is sort of the guidance that's coming through about how to navigate this time and what's really happening for those of us who are attuned to these energies. So the Two of Swords, I think, is really highlighting that right now, oh my God, the difference between the fourth dimensional timeline and all of its programs and patterns and habits of thought, and like the ego awareness, the character, the identity that we formulated in order to exist in that fourth dimensional story, in that fourth dimensional master timeline, that is one part of our consciousness. And this new dimensional awareness and this new identity we are creating, that is another part of our consciousness. And it's almost like we are being split and bilocated. That's what it feels like to me, more pronouncedly than I have ever felt it before, where there's like the Amy that I've known myself to be in the fourth dimensional master timeline. And there is the version of Amy that I am becoming as I allow myself to actually shift into this fifth dimensional timeline of freedom and beauty and like just it's quantum, it's unlimited. I can't be the Amy from the fourth dimensional master timeline in this new fifth dimensional timeline. So I have to go through a process of releasing all that. I have to leave parts of me there in that fourth dimensional timeline, but not leave them behind in a way that's self-abandoning. Like that doesn't work either. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're just trying to get away from parts of yourself that you'd rather not look at, that doesn't work. That just holds you in the fourth dimensional timeline. It's like I have to see these parts of myself that were of the fourth dimension and release them so that they are no longer like bound or beholden. They don't have a role. It feels like a loving way of retiring myself. And this is easier said than done. It has been challenging. Like some of the parts of myself that come up, I would rather not look at, and they aren't comfortable to sit with or to stop rejecting. But I can just feel that it's almost like you have to actually bring it to an end. It is a death process. It's the same way that, you like somebody can physically die, but if you don't allow yourself to grieve them, then you're not letting them go. Do you know what I mean? Like, our fourth dimensional selves and the part of ourselves that we have, the part of ourselves that feels so familiar because it's who we've had to be this whole entire time, that part still needs to be processed. It's the final stages of processing. All we have to do is make our peace with those parts of ourselves and release them, set them free so that they do not have to play out these themes anymore. They've done their part. Like, thank you to that fourth dimensional construct. Thank you. You've done an amazing job. You got me here. That was hard. The fourth dimension is one of the hardest zones to exist in. And, we have fallen from grace while we were there. I mean, that's kind of the name of the game. But we can forgive and release those parts of ourselves and just with love and gratitude and like, you did it. You did it though. And I love you and I forgive you and I release you, and you are no longer bound to that. It's like letting your own energy be free to become something else. Because that's actually what's happening. And then the Temple of the Rose card, ancient power, expression, activation, scarlet codes. It's all making so much sense to me now, why I wanted to create the Akashic Keys Mystery School and why I was having these huge rose activations earlier in the year. We are in the process of ascending into and reclaiming parts of ourselves that we have always been, but that we became disconnected from. And it is the parts of ourselves that know how to responsibly steward and wield magnificent creational power. And we know how to utilize this magic that we have. We have creator magic. It's like, this is not a rinky-dink form of magic. This is high-level magic that we have. High-level magic. It is a total gift. It is a total honor to be allowed to exist and play within this frequency of, crystalline quantum stem cells of creation, and to learn how to direct the flow of this energy to create an entire new reality. Like this shows you how special we are, because we would not, this is something we've had to earn. We're not just given this on a silver platter. We have earned this not just through this lifetime and all the work that we've done in this lifetime to process our shadow and shift into those higher timelines within the fourth dimension. But we have also earned this through many ancient lifetimes where we studied and studied and studied, and we devoted ourselves to our particular forms of magic. If you've been feeling a huge activation within yourself recently, even over the last 4 to 5 years, where you just feel like you want to devour every modality and every you're one of those people that you're like, I'm taking this and I'm taking that and I'm learning this and I'm learning that and I'm like, I want to do this and I want to do that. Or even if you haven't financially been able to do it, but you're just craving it and wanting it so much. This is because you already know how to do all that. You've had many lifetimes, ancient lifetimes, where you studied all these things, and you're aware that this is the time where you get to have it all back. You get to remember it and hold it again and apply it in a way that is masterful and beautiful. I just know that we have master level consciousness. And when I say that, please understand that to call oneself a master is not to claim that we have achieved permanent mastery, but it is to make the distinction that we are holding ourselves to a path of mastery. Mastery is what we are aiming for, and through this, we are masters. But it's not because we are flawless and we are at the top of the hierarchy, the pinnacle of perfection. It's just I think about amazing virtuoso musicians, and they aren't flawless. It's not that they never make a mistake. The ones who, when they play, your jaw literally drops because you're just blown away by how A, gifted they are, but B, skilled they are, and C, masterful they are. The familiarity they have with their instrument, it's just it's awesome. And yet they aren't perfect. It's not that they never make mistakes. It's just that they chose to step onto a path of mastery through devotion. And so they become masters. But the path of mastery doesn't end. It has no pinnacle. It is forever. And it is a joy to be on that path forever. Finding out that it has no end is not disheartening. It's the most exciting, expansive thing ever. I know that's who you are. I know that's who we are. I know that's why we're here. I know that's why we are among the first to arrive in this new beautiful timeline. And I know that's why we have to hold ourselves to a standard of mastery right now. I would say with more commitment than ever before, because something I learned this week as I navigate the craziness of all of this is that our thoughts and especially our words carry a lot of impact here. And they will instantly manifest. And by instant, I mean within minutes, hours, and possibly days, but it really doesn't even feel longer than that. It feels so fast, where when we put something out with our words, especially if there's a strong declaration behind it, that thing is reflected back very, very rapidly. And I feel like we get a little grace period where we get to learn how this new reality works and how rapid manifestation is, and how literal our powers are. We get a little grace period so that we can acclimate, but we have to understand that the purpose of this is to acclimate, and we do have to learn how this works, because it is this is such a sacred responsibility to be the first ones to touch this new timeline, and the first ones to start molding it and sculpting it into a reality that all other human consciousness is going to follow us into. It's a big deal. To which I also really want to encourage you to like step into this power now and own it and step into how important you are, and, you know, do your best to release the fourth dimensional anxiety programs of like, but I have to do this, or but I can't because of that, or like the fear of the consequences. I encourage you to soften around those consequences and understand that they are illusions of the fourth dimension. They aren't real, and that they will needlessly hold you back, but you have to actively choose to release them. It's really important. Finally, my God, longest energy report. My energy reports are so long lately, but so much is happening. Okay. I don't even feel like I'm being thorough right now, to be honest, but keeping it under an hour. The last thing I want to mention is that I just want to speak into the ongoing ascension symptoms, which include both sort of emotional ascension symptoms and physical ascension symptoms, and certainly psychological. So the physical ascension symptoms that I've heard a lot of people reporting are, the number one thing that I've heard the most is headaches, by far. A lot of people having a lot of headaches. I feel so tired, but in fairness, I mean, Mars is still in Cancer. It's out of retrograde, but it is not at full speed yet. It is still repairing, like, you know, we don't have our full energy and vitality backing us just based on Mars. But I feel so tired. Like I could just constantly sleep. But a lot of people are feeling headaches and just generally gross, digestive complaints, sensitivities. I tend to be a skin person, so I still, like, my skin is still letting me know that it's adjusting to this new reality. It like got so hot and activated, like flaming hot cheeks, with no fever or anything on last week. So a lot of physical symptoms, I mean, it's not limited to that. But my point is there are a lot of physical ascension symptoms happening right now because it is a lot for us to adjust to this new frequency. It's so different. It is so different from the fourth dimensional frequency. The fourth dimensional frequency, compared to this one, feels like being pricked with a million tiny little pins on my skin. It's so like, bleh. It's very, very uncomfortable. And I'm amazed that we existed there for so long. And we're very strong. And we should love ourselves so much and love everybody who is still there. But it is still, even if we're moving out of that, it's a lot for our physical bodies to adjust to. On an emotional level, for me, what I've noticed is a lot of anxiety. Like, I mean, a lot of anxiety. On the day, today I don't have it. Yesterday I had quite a lot. The day before I had quite a lot. Last week I had like level 11 out of 10 anxiety. It was nuts. It was just like all day long for 3 days in a row. So it's a lot to adjust to on the anxiety level. And again, I think that is because that fourth dimensional ego construct is having to accept that it is no longer needed. It's no longer, do you know what I mean? Like, it's struggling to accept that. I don't know how to put it. It's not that it's died. Like, I guess it is. Maybe. I don't know. It's more just like, the parts of ourselves that like we have fully believed that we are for so freaking long, to realize that those are not actually that's not true. And that you're not that is huge. It's huge to adjust to. It's huge. And it creates a lot of anxiety. And then that ego construct really is like, are you sure? I don't know. And like, it doesn't want to let go. Ugh. There's a lot of push and pull and warring within ourselves. And so it does feel like a straddle between two timelines, but we are in the fifth dimensional timeline. It's just sort of the remnants of ourselves. I've also felt a lot of insecurity, and like, it's that deep existential insecurity of like being afraid that everybody hates you and that you're not loved. And I don't know, like, it's a deep existential insecurity. And it feels like the false matrix really, really, really trying to pull us back down. That's how it feels to me. Just things that I know are not true, but they feel on an emotional level. It's almost like something, like if we are ascending out of its reaches, it's trying to reach up with whatever remaining resources and cords it has and tentacles it has, and like dig the knife into a wound that has always worked. Do you know what I mean? And it's still like, I feel the wound, but I'm like, no, it's done. It's over. But I still feel the wound. Like that emotional ascension symptom is still present. And then obviously a lot of fear and a lot of hypersensitivity. But for me also, I think this is because of all the energy happening in Aries, but I also feel a lot of anger. And I'm not somebody that angers naturally or easily. So this is a super uncomfortable emotional state for me to be in. But I know that I trust that whatever symptoms are coming up as ascension symptoms, like that needs to be felt. It needs to be processed and witnessed and released and just loved and all that kind of stuff. And then on a mental level, a lot of it is the habit of old thoughts. And it's just because we've never known ourselves as anything but that fourth dimensional construct within this incarnation. And so it is a lot to be alive and incarnated and go through this much of an identity transformation. It's the biggest, like this, our previous generations did not go through anything like this. This is a really, really, really unique time in the human experience. Many generations never experience anything like this. It's tremendous. But it's a lot. It's a lot to process while you're alive, like the complete dissolving of your previous identity. While not invalidating it, it's what you were in that old timeline. And you are not that. That's what you were there, and you are not that now. It's so much. And so because we've known ourselves in a certain way, and only in that way, in this incarnation, our mind has created a lot of habitual thought around the lives that we've been living and the identity that we identify with, the character we believe that we are, and the lives that we've created for ourselves. And those habits of thought are very ingrained. So they aren't even necessarily all bad. Like some of them, I can feel are connected to false matrix programs. But some of them are just neutral habits of thought that are no longer relevant, and I can feel their irrelevance, but they're such established habits that I still find myself thinking them. And it's requiring a lot of presence and lucidity to just notice that and let it go. I don't feel like I have to fight it. It's just a habit. And whenever I can unplug from it, whenever I can notice it and unplug from it, and plug myself into the reality that I actually desire to create in this whole fresh blank canvas of a crystalline quantum reality, that's all I have to do. So that's all you have to do. If you find yourself thinking habits of thought, then just unplug from it when you notice it, plug into what you actually want to create. Know that what you want to create is totally real. It is totally real. Like what you want to create will be created. All you have to do is flood your attention into it and leave behind all of the previous limitations that you experienced and understood yourself through, and just leave those limitations behind, because those do not apply here. They don't apply. I mean, you can recreate them here if you want to, but I don't even know if you fully can. Like it'll almost be like a comical farce of whatever limitations you previously had to live by. I just don't think this realm supports the darkness of the fourth dimension. And also, like, let's not try to, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's just leave those old limitations behind. We don't actually even want to experiment and see if we can replicate them here. Why would we want that? If we ever need to find them again, we know where they are. They're safely housed in the fucking fourth dimension. Anyways. All right. Well, I could go on for another 20 minutes, but I will stop there. There are so many things that I want to say. Please feel free to email me your questions, or you can DM me on Instagram too, or comment. Like I'm doing a better job at seeing everything, and I'm trying to figure out how I can weave replies or weave answers to those questions into the energy reports and the content that I make. But it really helps me to create content that is hopefully relevant to you, and it feels like it's like hitting the points that you need, that really benefit you if you kind of tell me where you're at. That I just love it. I love interacting with you. I don't really want to just speak into an empty void. I definitely love knowing that there are real incarnated master consciousnesses here with me, and I'm just so glad that we are all here together. And I'm also so fucking pumped that we're all here together, because man, that was a long, hard haul in the fourth dimension. That was wild. That was a wild ride. And I am really glad that we are all here together now. And I'm so excited as more and more join us over here. And yeah, let's just sculpt the most exquisitely beautiful like timeline that is an absolute tribute to the divine and all things miraculous, wonderful, and beautiful within creation. Let's do that together. Okay, a little bit of light language, and then I'll let you go. Ke tara horo ki atroa fino te a ki norosera ka I shonote I sotrotera ki orohaya I norona alo inteira ki ahi sonotera. Haya ki otro a I fonotera ko I shonoaya ti sono I kotro I faroa aneate o kira. Falo inteira ki horo aya suniotera ki o heshoio ta inoroketi. Okay, my beautiful friends, I love you so much. If you resonate with the things that I've said on this energy report and you do want to go deeper and you just like, you are like, yes, I am an ancient master soul. Yes, I am recovering my magic. How do I do that? I want to learn more. The Akashic Keys Mystery School is something that I have available for you. It is the place where I have chosen to house all of the codes that I've been downloading over the last 5 years, specifically for us at this time as we enter into this beautiful fifth dimensional quantum crystalline cloud reality. And I would love nothing more than to share them with you. So you can check out the link that I have in the show notes. And of course, if you have any questions about it, just send me an email at amy@thenorthstarguidance.com, and I would love to answer any of your questions. Okay, I love you all so much, and I will catch you on the next energy report.